Well, I think the backstory is sort of in that scene quite brilliantly. I think Fitz is a very hard worker, a very smart guy, very diligent, and quite instinctual, but he's a lot, and unfortunately, Secret Service detail to cover, whether it be the president, the first lady, or the first daughter, there's probably a certain amount of tact and circumspection needed to do that job that Fitz maybe doesn't possess yet. So I think more than being overlooked, I think he's supposed to be learning a lesson about how to interact with people, which is why joining a task force is really great for him, because you're dealing with a lot of different personalities, you're trying to assimilate, you're trying to fit in. So yeah, I think that's what's going on. Well, I certainly hope so. Yeah, I think, and speaking to those two characters and those two guys, I know they, I think they appreciate having my sort of opposition to their style or dynamic, and again, I think opposites playing off each other can really heighten both sides in a really beautiful way. So yeah, I think any chance to be a bit of a foil in the fun way, or just to highlight the strengths of other task force members is great. So yeah, and I'm nothing if not game to be the butt of the joke and keep talking till someone tells me to shut up. Well, I think to that last question, I think you'd want someone who has your sort of your opposite. I would maybe say Finau. Strong silent type, doesn't say a lot, which means maybe I get a lot more dialogue, which is kind of nice. And also, Uli is, Dane calls him the secret funniest. He's one of the funniest people in the world. And also just a legend and gem of a guy. So I think that would be a cool dynamic, sort of the Herculean large man and whatever I am working together. I'm talking, he's cracking skulls. It'd be kind of fun. Either him or Meachum, because Jensen has a pretty good track record with TV shows, so I feel like, and he's just a joy to be around. He's loves what he does and brings everybody together. So one of those two guys, I think, or maybe Jessica. She's so badass. It would make me look pretty weak, but I think it'd be kind of a fun dynamic. Listen, any of them. Not really. I mean, coming onto a show is always a little daunting. I think luckily in this case we were all starting a new case, which is kind of helpful. I wasn't coming in the middle of a case. But certainly coming into a dynamic being put on a task force that has already been together for a number of months, a number of episodes, you got to bring your A game. You really, I was, if anything, I kind of over prepared and made sure I was ready to, they have a shorthand that I don't know yet. So, and you want to be useful, you want to be helpful. And so, yeah, I think if anything, you just prepare even more than you normally would, just so that you're not falling behind. I feel like there's not like a specific line, but I feel like at the end of every scene, I would just keep talking until someone told me to shut up. I think that I always have an instinct with Fitz to, he doesn't he's sort of thinking out loud. I often sometimes think he doesn't even know that he's talking. So there's always an instinct to sort of keep talking until someone, probably Meachum or Oliveras or Blythe, tells me to shut up. This was this is truly one of if not the best sets I've ever been on, and I attribute that sort of primarily to from the top down, from Derek and Jensen. You know, Jensen has 3 rules when he starts a show. I hope I'm not butchering these, but it's show up on time, know your words, respect everybody, and have a good time. And I've always thought that should be every set, you know, that should be the vibe on any set. And this was one of the first sets I've been on where that was true. In every department, in every facet of the show. And so I sort of attribute that to the two of them for setting that tone of hard work, but fun. You know, this stuff should be fun. It really should. It should be fun to do. It should be fun to watch. It should be fun to be around. And this was. And so, you know, coming into that and having that be the case, because I've come into shows and that's not the case, and you're the new guy. And so to come in and have everything be fun and a good time and everyone's welcoming, everyone wanted me to do well. Everyone wanted the Fitz character to pop and to be a good addition to the team. Nobody had egos about it. So that was really special, and what a relief. Very simple and straightforward. I got an audition, I made a self-tape, and a little while later I got the job. I wish they could all be that straightforward. I know the wonderful casting director, David Rappaport, who I've you know, known and been cast by in the past, knows my work, so maybe that makes it a little easier. He can kind of vouch for me. But yeah, it was a pretty straightforward audition, and luckily with someone like a character like Fitz, you can either do this stuff or you can't. You know, it's a lot of words. It's, you know, it's a lot to say, and that's sort of my forte and what I like to do. And so, yeah, it was one tape, and I got the job. And a couple weeks later, or I think, yeah, a month or so later, I was on set. I was thrilled because, you know, I had read the sides, obviously, but to find out that I'm the one who discovers the case, and that I become such an integral part of the task force, you know, right off the bat was it was such a thrill, because it gives you lots to do, it gives you lots to be a part of, and a lot to play around with. Yeah, I mean, like anything, coming on to a show late in the game makes you come on with a certain humility and an approach of service. You know, this show is already going, and you can either help it or hurt it. You can't invent it. And so I think it taught me to come in with a service mindset, to go like, how can I service the scene? How can I service the characters that by the time people see my episodes, I'm interacting with characters that they already love. And so how do I help them do better? How do I, you know, add a new flavor to this task force so that it tastes better? Pardon the weird metaphor. So yeah, it taught me to come in really prepared and ready to help, which I think is a really good way to start any job. Yes, I was in the company for 5 years as a kid. From the time I was 9 till 14, I was in shows there. I was in Antony and Cleopatra and Cyrano de Bergerac, The Merry Wives of Windsor, Waiting for Godot, and Richard III. I mean, this is one of the most formative times of my life, watching great Shakespearean actors, including my father, perform on that stage and being on that stage, and being with creative types, both young and old, doing it at the highest level from that age was just, it was such a privilege. And it was just kind of how I grew up, and that was even more of a privilege. So yeah, it was an incredible way to start an actor's life. What inspired me to become an actor was being an actor. You know, I was on stage from the time I was very young, and I watched great work. I was alongside it. I would go see it, and and I saw people have beautiful lives making art. You know, having families and being artistic and being part of a community. You know, a theater company like Stratford is, you know, especially when I was a kid, was a real community. It was a real family. People worked together 8, 9 months of the year. They were in the company years at a time. And so you grew up with these people. And it made being an actor feel like being part of a community, which sometimes doesn't happen as much when you're, when you're bouncing from job to job. But I think that's why Countdown meant so much to me. Was it felt like going back to those roots where everyone was pointed in the same direction and being part of a team and a community that supported one another and lifted each other up. So yeah, and my inspiration to become an actor was my dad. My dad was an unbelievably talented Shakespearean character actor, and the amount I saw him do in his lifetime was staggering, and the performances he turned in year after year, and sometimes, you know, in parts smaller than he would have liked, he still came out guns blazing, and he was the best of us. He really was, and no one loved it more. No one supported other artists more than he did. He was such a support of me my whole life, and he just was what an actor should be. So, yeah, my dad. Yeah, sure. I worked with Forrest Whitaker when I was in my early 20s. I was pretty starstruck there. And honestly, I was a little starstruck with Eric and Jensen. You know, these guys have been on our TVs for the last 20 years, more. And they do it at the highest level. And so, you know, I was a little starstruck to walk onto a set and have my first day be doing monologues at these two sort of TV giants. So yeah, there's a little starstruck there too. Yeah, I did stand up to do stand up comedy to play a stand up comedian in a TV show. I did it a handful of times, and I've revisited it a number of times. I'll go to open mics and try stuff out. Yeah, it's that's something that helped enormously, not just comedically, but also it's the scariest thing in the world, and it really takes the pressure off other things that used to seem scary. Like walking into a show and having your first day be a monologue to the entire regular cast feels a little less scary after you've stood in front of strangers and tried to make them laugh, which is tremendously difficult. I think I would love to play Lieutenant Caffey in A Few Good Men. I think I'm a huge Aaron Sorkin fan, and you know, as a guy who likes dialogue, Sorkin is kind of the mecca for us. And that play and that part is just it's so chef's kiss. Actually, a part Jensen played. We talked a lot about it. He had the privilege of doing that play and playing that part. So yeah, I'd love to play Biff in Death of a Salesman. I'd love to play Hamlet someday. Just anyone who talks a lot. But yeah, I think anything Sorkin. If they ever redo The West Wing, I'd like to be involved in some way. My favorite way to unwind is to take my dog Bo for a walk. He's the greatest dog in the world, and yeah, he's just the greatest, and having a dog is the greatest, and taking my dog to the dog park, I think. Being surrounded by dogs, watching him have a good time, everything melts away after that. I mean, I guess comedy. I've got an affinity for comedy and making people laugh, trying to make people laugh, keeping things light. I think it's a great service to at least endeavor to make people laugh. So yeah, I think probably comedy.